What's up, Steelers Nation? Before we get into today's breaking news, let me take a moment to shout out to all the passionate fans out there. If you're part of Steelers Nation, you know this team isn't just about the plays on the field, it's about the grit, determination, and relentless work that goes into every practice, every game, and every moment. Coach Tomlin always says the team is constantly improving, refining every last detail, and pushing to meet the high standards Steelers football demands. So if you're riding with us, do me a solid, smash that like button so more fans can join the conversation. Trust me, today's news is a roller coaster, and you'll want to buckle up. There's a mix of concern, controversy, and some classic Steelers drama, all in one package. We've got updates on Aaron Rodgers' injury situation, frustration surrounding GM Omar Khan, and a new twist in the fallout from the George Pickens trade. Let's dive right in. Let's start with the big name in Pittsburgh right now, Aaron Rodgers. Coach Mike Tomlin was cautiously optimistic just a few days ago about the veteran quarterback's chances to suit up in Week 13 against the Buffalo Bills. After missing Week 12 due to a fractured non-throwing wrist, many fans breathed a sigh of relief, thinking the injury wouldn't keep Rodgers out long. It's a small fracture, sure, but at 41 years old, Rodgers knows better than anyone that every injury, no matter how minor, requires extra care. At least that's what we thought, until this week's practice. Rodgers, who was expected to gradually ramp up his participation, was nowhere to be found on the field. That's 2 weeks in a row where the future Hall of Famer has missed at least one practice. That's concerning, especially with the Steelers facing critical games down the stretch. With Rodgers sidelined, backup Mason Rudolph took the first-team reps, while rookie Will Howard rotated in behind him. Not exactly the quarterback rotation Steelers Nation wanted to see with the playoffs looming. After practice, Rodgers spoke with the media and, in typical Aaron Rodgers fashion, said just enough to leave everyone hanging. No timeline for his return, no guarantees he'll be ready for Week 13, and no firm answer on whether he'll be the guy leading the offense against Buffalo. So, what does this all mean for the Steelers? Mike Tomlin made it clear. The Steelers are still optimistic about Rodgers, but they'll be cautious with him. Tomlin also said that Rodgers' participation levels in practice would be the key indicator for his availability. If Rodgers doesn't get in more reps or continues to be limited, fans might have to prepare for a Week 13 with Mason Rudolph under center. One missed practice is no cause for panic, but if Rodgers keeps sitting out, the Steelers might be in a tough spot. Facing Buffalo without your starting quarterback is not a scenario anyone wants to deal with, especially with the Bills fighting for a playoff spot. So, while we're not panicking just yet, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Moving on to another story causing a stir around Pittsburgh. General Manager Omar Khan. Khan, known for being aggressive and bold in shaping the roster, is now under fire for a trade that's left many questioning his judgment. Let's rewind to May when the Steelers traded George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys. The trade surprised a lot of fans. On one hand, there were valid concerns about Pickens' off-field behavior. He had issues with punctuality and maturity, which understandably affected his trade value. On the other hand, many fans, analysts, and even former players were scratching their heads, wondering what the offense could have looked like with Pickens and DK Metcalf in the same receiving corps. Fast forward to now, and that trade is still a hot topic in NFL circles. NFL insider Diana Russini recently reported that rival executives are still stunned by the deal, with some calling it the Cowboys trade of the year. So, what happened? The Steelers traded Pickens and a 2027 sixth-round pick to Dallas, while they received a 2026 third-round pick and a 2027 fifth-round pick in return. On the surface, that might seem fair, but looking at how well Pickens is playing for Dallas, it's hard not to feel like Pittsburgh got the short end of the stick. Through 11 games, Pickens is having a career year. 67 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He's emerging as a true WR1, living up to the raw talent he displayed in college. And here's the kicker. Pickens is projected to sign a massive contract extension, potentially worth over $30 million a year, with some estimates putting his next deal at 5 years and $153 million. And the Cowboys only gave up a third and a fifth-round pick for him. That's an absolute steal. Sure, the Steelers had valid concerns about Pickens' maturity and his contract situation, but even so, it feels like they could have gotten a better return for a player with that kind of upside. Now, Pickens is thriving in Dallas while the Steelers' offense continues to search for answers, particularly in the passing game. Could the Steelers have kept him? Absolutely. They could have paired him with Metcalf and given Rodgers a dynamic receiving duo to work with. Instead, they traded him away. and now Pickens is flourishing elsewhere, while Pittsburgh is left to wonder what could have been. That brings us to the Steelers' offense. To put it bluntly, it's been stagnant. The team's offense has looked flat, predictable, and lacking explosiveness in recent weeks. A prime example of this was the Week 21 loss to the Chicago Bears. The final score, 31-28, doesn't even begin to reflect how bad the offense looked, especially in the second half. One of the touchdowns came from the defense, not the offense, and the only other offensive touchdown in the second half came after a painstaking 17-play drive. Fans were practically begging the team to score faster. It was a slow, methodical drive, but no one was thrilled with the lack of urgency. Mason Rudolph finished the game with 24 completions, but only for 171 yards. It was a lot of checkdowns and short throws. There was no deep threat, no explosiveness. When the Bears adjusted, the Steelers had no counterpunch. It was clear the offense needs help. And what's the missing ingredient? Well, one thing is certain, the deep ball is gone. The Steelers haven't completed a pass over 20 yards in over a month. A full month without a deep completion in an NFL season where big plays are critical? That's a major concern. Just a few weeks ago, the Steelers' offense looked dangerous, unpredictable, and capable of striking quickly. Now it looks slow, hesitant, and easy to defend. Opposing defenses are more than happy to sit back and let Pittsburgh dink and dunk their way down the field. So, what's the solution? There might be a familiar face who could help, but the Steelers aren't in any rush to bring him up to the active roster. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, MVS, was brought into the practice squad after spending time with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. MVS is known for his deep ball ability, and Rodgers has been vocal about wanting to get him involved in Pittsburgh's offense. But despite the offense's obvious need for a big play threat, MVS has yet to be elevated to the active roster. Why not? Well, the receiver room is already crowded, with 6 receivers currently on the roster. MVS would have to prove he has something left in the tank, whether it's his explosiveness, health, or ability to make big plays, to get that promotion. Rodgers clearly believes MVS could help reignite the offense, but the coaching staff isn't convinced yet. The connection between Rodgers and MVS was a major reason why the deep ball was so successful in Green Bay, and the Steelers could certainly use that kind of playmaker right now. But with a crowded receiver room and uncertainty about MVS's form, the coaching staff is treading carefully. Whether or not MVS can provide the spark Pittsburgh needs remains to be seen.